Okay, so this is 24 cards. We're probably not playing both copies of Dispel in the main, if either, so I'm going to hide those for now. I'm going to hide the Chronic Flooding, and that's 21. So now we get to look at another red rare that we're passing, and a better red common, actually. We could take a Stab Wound, but I think this Vassal Soul is probably just the card for us. Knightly Valor is tempting, but I think we just want the beater. And here we are looking at another Sentry, a Rootborn Defenses, Skyline Predator, or Frostburn Weird. And I think the Weird is the pick for us. Double blue's a little awkward, especially when we're running 2 white 1-drops. But this guy with an Ethereal Armor seems really good. So we'll take him. And now we get to choose between a 1-mana flyer or a 2-mana 2/2. I think the flyer is probably just better. Or, I mean, not the flyer, the 2/2 is just better. So we're shaping up. Now we're at 24. If we're cutting a card from this setup right here, well, that's kind of tough. It could be one of these Sentries. It could be Avenging Arrow. It could be one of the 6-drops. Or the Armory Guard, actually. Yeah, we finally drafted a red card for a white-red aggro deck. That's pretty exciting. Alright, so now we're looking at a Dryad Militant or a Sentry or this Hover Barrier. The Hover Barrier doesn't really do anything to progress our plan, so I'm going to take another 1-drop. And wow, alright. Here's a pretty late ultimate price, although we're not going to take that. We're probably just going to take another Vassal Soul. I mean, flyers will often just get there. And, ooh-wee, this is a good pack for us. A Bluster Squall is good. Another Militant would be good. This Tower Drake would be good. But I think we're just going to take another Ethereal Armor and just make that the plan. Hopefully we can draw double of those. And we'll take another Avenging Arrow. At this point, I don't think we're playing the 6-drop. Tristani's might still make the cut, but I don't think anything else will. I'll take a downsize for the board, although I can't imagine many situations where we actively want to bring that in. So we do need to cut some cards here, and I do think the Weird might be one of the cards we cut. Because we're almost a mono white deck. Like all of these 1-drops are single color. We'll hate an Indrik. That's pretty good against us. But the blue cards we really want to play are the Guild Mage, the Vassal Souls, which also double as white cards, the Sky Knight, Detention Sphere, Paralyzing Grasp, Hussar Patrol, Void Wielder. I think right now the Judgment's not making the deck. One of the Arrows is probably out, and maybe the Frostburn Weird. And that would be 24 cards, and then we could play 16 lands. I think that'd be fine. I don't know, we'll see what happens over these last few picks, but I think we're looking pretty good. Apologies if you can hear the rain in the background. It's coming down outside. Alright, another downsize now. We'll just take a 3-drop. Another Sentry, man. This card, I mean, it's not great, but it's not terrible either. It's a nice curve filler, that's for sure. Okay, so let's hide the Weird. Let's hate this Mind Rot, I guess. So that's 26. We probably don't need to play all 3 copies of Celestia Sentry. So cut one of those, get on to 25 lands. Maybe cut an Avenging Arrow. We'll take the Jailbreaker this time. 2 Dispels is probably about as many as we need. And I don't know, we'll see you for deck building. I think we've got a brew on our hands. Alright, welcome back for deck building. This is kind of the shell of our deck. This is 21 cards in the main deck currently. We have 3 1-drops, 4 2-drops, 5 3-drops, a couple 4-drops, and a 5-drop, and then we have 3 Ethereal Armors, a Dramatic Rescue, Detention Sphere, Paralyzing Grasp. So we need to figure out which of these cards up top here, still in the sideboard, want to make it in. We've got some options. We can play a 23 lander and play cards like Tristani's Judgment and maybe Skywatch or Tristani's Judgment and another Avenging Arrow, just to kind of give us more removal. We can load up on early drops and play 16 lands. We could bring in this Sentry, maybe an Avenging Arrow, and possibly the Frostburn Weird. Although I don't know what our mana base would be like for this to be able to come down on turn 2. So I consider this more of a 3-drop or even a 4-drop based upon our potential mana base here. I mean, luckily we don't need double white until turn 3, and that's only for the Sunspire Griffin, and then turn 4 for Justice Year. Every other turn, every other card only really requires 1 white mana as long as we have another blue. Anyway, kind of going back to what we're looking at. I think the correct build of this deck is something like Frostburn Weird, Skywatch, Judgment, maybe Armory Guard, Sentry, get both of these Caracols out, and I mean, maybe even like cut a Paralyzing Grasp and an Ethereal Armor for an Avenging Arrow, and possibly, I mean, yeah, that might just be it right there. But that's not what we're going for. So Ethereal Armor's back in, Caracol's back in. I'm going to take all these cards out. Kind of bringing things in and out helps me see what's going on a little bit better. This Grasp I want in there. Unfortunately, we don't have a whole lot of other enchantments we can play. The only other one we have is Chronic Flooding that's on color. But, let's see. I'm not really a big fan of Avenging Arrow in this style of deck, just considering how aggressive we are. I think I want to get the 6-drops in. Armory Guard doesn't do a whole lot on offense. Like, I don't mind playing this guy and maybe these two. That's 24 cards. I don't know if I'd want to run 16 land with double 6-drops, though. I wouldn't feel terrible about it, but I wouldn't feel great about it either. But with that said, we've talked about how we're trying to force an aggressive strategy here, so I think we're just gonna do that. I mean, we could also play a Dispel over the Avenging Arrow, but that seems kind of loose. I think the Avenging Arrow is probably just better for what we're trying to do. Yeah, this looks pretty decent. I mean, the big question I have is whether or not I want this weird in here. We could bring in a Sentry, another Sentry instead, like, but then we're getting a little heavy at the 3-drop spot. Like, I understand that this may not come down on turn 2, but playing it on turn 3 and then being able to cast an Ethereal Armor or something, or cast another Caracol. Well, God, I hate this card, but it seems like that could be an okay plan. And again, this guy does wear the Ethereal Armor very well. I don't know, I think this is what I'm going to start with, kind of as an ode to the whole Forcing the Issue segment. Run worse cards, or run a deck that I think is slightly suboptimal. We'll see what happens between matches when we go to sideboarding, because there's the chance that just the Skywatch and the Judgment need to be in the deck, maybe even Armory Guard based upon the matchup. So we'll add some lands here and do a color sort first. Yeah, I mean, you can see that this is basically just a mono white deck, which makes this card kind of awkward. And maybe I just play the Armory Guard over it. Is that better? It might be. Because we're not going to have access to red mana to bump this guy either. Or maybe it is just the other Sentry. Hey, you know what? Let's do that. It seems fine. Or Skywatch? I'm sure it's fun for the viewers to just watch me deliberate with myself. So I'm going to pause it here and figure it out, and then when I've decided what I want to do, I'll come back and do the land count for you. Alright, so here's the deck I'm going to submit. It's a 16 lander. I decided just to play the third copy of Selesnya Sentry. Playing 9 plains and 7 islands. I thought about doing 10-6, but I figured there will be occasions where I might want to activate the Guild Mage twice, or I might just want to cast 2 blue spells at the same time. And again, the only real double white I have is this Griffin and Justiciar, and I think with 9 plains I shouldn't have any problem getting there. So yeah, we'll see you for round 1. Thanks for watching so far.